It was the late summer of AD 83, or perhaps 84, when Gnaeus Julius Agricola, the Roman governor of Britain, marched his legions into the wild, misty highlands of Caledonia, modern-day Scotland. Agricola, now in the 7th year of his governorship, had pushed further north than any Roman commander before him. He was determined to bring the last resisting tribes of Britain, the Caledonians, under Roman dominion. Word reached him that a coalition of Caledonian tribes had assembled under a single war leader by the name of Calgacus, a figure whose name survives solely through the writings of Tacitus, Agricola's son-in-law. Tacitus portrays Calgacus as both a fierce warrior and a capable orator, a man who rallied his people with impassioned words against the tide of Roman imperialism. To meet this threat to Roman hegemony head-on, Agricola assembled a force of roughly 17,000 to 20,000 soldiers, most of which were auxiliaries from the Germanic regions of Batavia and Tungria. These men were experienced in the Roman style of battle and were exceptionally capable in close combat. The Roman force was set up as follows: auxiliary cavalry and Roman cavalry positioned on both flanks. Roman heavy legionnaires were held at the back in support. The Roman auxiliaries were stationed at the forefront of the formation. Agricola gave the order for his auxiliary front lines to advance on the Caledonians' position. Although not specifically mentioned as to why he did this, Tacitus speculates it could have been to draw the Caledonians away from their strategic high ground position. The Caledonians, Tacitus claims, numbered 30,000 strong. Their formation resembles something of an inverted bow, with slightly more men occupying their flanks. They held the favorable high ground, arranged in ranks along the slope of the hill, their long hair flowing, bodies painted or tattooed, and armed with long swords, spears, and shields. They sought to use the terrain to their advantage, and were going to be heavily reliant on the downward momentum of downhill charges to break the Roman lines. Although they had a numerical advantage, the Romans had better equipped infantry, who were more battle-seasoned. The major advantage, however, lay in the skilled and competent Roman commander Agricola. Thus the tide shifted in favor of the Romans. Agricola gave the order. The Roman auxiliaries advanced in a disciplined, tight formation up the slope. The Tungrian and Batavian soldiers led the lines. The Caledonian chariots rode out, harassing the Romans upon their ascent up the hilltop. The charioteers threw javelins, spears, and other projectiles in their path, hoping to slow them down. The horses, being intelligent animals, kept their distance from the lines of auxiliary spear ranks who pointed their sharp points in front of them. The distance allowed the auxiliaries to utilize their throwing javelins, picking off Caledonian chariots whenever they rode too close. Undeterred by the harassment of the chariots, the hardy Roman auxiliaries continued their disciplined advance forward toward the main Caledonian force. The charioteers, proving ineffective, swiftly disengaged from the skirmish and rode back behind the safety of their infantry. The Roman auxiliaries closed in on the main force. The Caledonian infantry braced themselves and prepared to fight tooth and nail for the hilltop, and ultimately the very survival of the Caledonian tribes. The infantry were locked head-on in a vicious scuffle. The Batavian and Tungrian auxiliaries were having better success compared to their Caledonian foe. greatly because of their instilled Roman discipline and the use of their Roman equipment in close combat, ultimately giving them the edge. On the flanks, the Caledonian cavalry swooped across the plains with the aim to hit the engaged Roman auxiliaries from the flanks. Agricola, a competent commander, foresaw this maneuver and acted in accordance. He swiftly ordered his own cavalry contingents to counter the enemy's plan. From the right and left flanks, thousands of Roman legionary cavalry, as well as Gallic cavalry, poured forward and straight toward the Caledonian riders. The engagement did not last long. The Roman cavalry were superior in arms and armor and maneuvered their steeds with more tenacity and experience. They pursued the Caledonian cavalry far from the battlefield, completely exposing the Caledonian flanks. Although having their cavalry routed, the Caledonian tribes still had the numerical advantage. Their reserve infantry advanced forward on the flanks and began a maneuver to encircle the Roman auxiliaries. The auxiliaries, now exhausted from the fighting, were in severe danger of being enveloped and destroyed. Luckily, however, their commander Agricola was 2 steps ahead. He had already anticipated such an action. Of the Roman cavalry that gave pursuit to the fleeing enemy cavalry, a large section on each flank was ordered to hold off and wait in reserve. Once the Caledonian infantry had charged forward and were close to engagement, the Roman cavalry were given the signal to engage. The Roman cavalry hit the Caledonians like a thunderbolt. The maneuver caused panic and disarray among the tribal warriors. As they began to retreat, the Roman cavalry violently pursued and cut down many from behind. With momentum at their backs, the auxiliaries overwhelmed the enemy at the center. They too began to join in on the slaughter and pursued the tribesmen. The final blow was when Agricola gave the order for his legions in reserve to advance forward, led by himself. At last, a full-on panic and retreat ensued and the battle was over. The Romans, however, showed no mercy or gave no quarter. They pursued relentlessly, cutting down any Caledonian tribesman who was not quick enough to get clear of the slaughter. According to Tacitus, having secured a decisive victory, the Romans were still met with some resistance by tribesmen who had taken shelter in the nearby forested areas. Roughly 20,000 or so Caledonians retreated into the woods, where they fared considerably better against pursuing forces. Roman scouts were unable to locate the remaining Caledonian forces the next morning. Tacitus also wrote that the Roman legions took no part in the battle, and in his reports, 10,000 Caledonian warriors died at a cost of only 360 auxiliary Roman soldiers. In the version of the battle by Hector Bos, which might be drawn from now lost local sources, it was a hard and closely fought battle, in which the Roman army would have been destroyed had not a cohort of Germans come to the rescue, enlisted and transported to Britain by command of Caesar. The struggle that followed was atrocious, with the Confederates fighting with far more violence than martial skill. Then Agricola sent in a cohort previously held in reserve, which he had been saving for sudden emergencies, to confront these fierce fighters. But the Confederates, remaining in the battle line with indescribable stubbornness, could not be budged. A sad, wretched spectacle ensued, with the Confederate wounded falling on top of their dead comrades. Some voluntarily exposed themselves to their executioners, and others escaped their enemy only to commit suicide. Everywhere you could see human limbs, weapons, bodies, and blood-soaked earth. The battle continued in this manner until night deprived the combatants of their ability to see. Then the signal for retreat was sounded, and both sides retired.